Hello, everybody. Welcome to probably the first of many episodes of CERJ Comments. Basically, I will go through and talk about my YouTube comments, and maybe justify them and whatnot. So, for our first episode, we have is how am I going to phrase this, right? Am I going to edit this video? I think so, right? Maybe. Who knows? Well, either way, my comment was made on a video about how Chamber was so overpowered that he was ruining Valorant. And my comment was the crazy thing is that he's really only overpowered if you are good. If you have bad aim, I would recommend literally any other character. Now, at the time I made this comment, I felt relatively justified in my claims. Looking at some of the replies, I would alter my opinion on that, and we'll get into that in just a moment. So let's first look off at our first comment by Vizen FPS, which is saying, "What about Reyna?" Now, I think Reyna is a pretty good counterexample, and because I'm gonna mention that in a later comment, I will talk about that later. And this was a comment by Creepy Trollers Booty. I know, great gamer tag. I mean, even if you don't have the greatest aim, you have a free have a free get out of jail card. Usually it's get out of jail free card, but whatever. With his TP and his op is just broken, you don't need to be that good to use op. Now, I didn't even bother like trying to debate this, because truth be told, I'm not like super duper familiar with that gun in particular. I have played quite a bit of Valorant, and I think I know what I'm talking about, at least to a certain extent. But that being said, I have only played Chamber for a portion of that, and I have not been able to use his up every single game that I've played him. Um, but to a certain extent, I do agree with this. I think that the op is relatively easy to use. I don't think it's that difficult to use. And like I said, I think this is a perfectly valid sentiment. Is that I mean, the thing is that it's an op, right? Like it's just an operator with extra effects. Like if you hit somebody, then there's a slow effect near where the person is that you killed. And the op realistically is not that hard to use. You literally just look at the person and shoot. It doesn't matter if you hit them in the head, unlike with other weapons. And this is a totally valid argument. That being said, with op, you still do have to be a bit careful about positioning, because you can still put yourself in situations where if somebody's running up on you, you're still going to be in a bad spot. Like it's an easy free kill if you know what you're doing, but it's very easy to not know what you're doing and miss and get killed. Um, and there's comments about Reyna. I'm not going to talk about Reyna right now. You kind of do. I've seen Chambers with all their ops shots before. Yeah, I mean it's the thing is that yes, you can maybe hit one shot, but the problem is that it's going to be difficult to hit all of your shots. Well, relatively difficult. Um, it's a debate that if you were to, you could make an argument either way, and I can see where you're going from because I've used the op before and I've used Chambers op before, and it's pretty they're very similar in terms of usage. And his op is free. Uh, and if you die, you don't drop it, so using it doesn't put you at a disadvantage if you miss your shots, which is a big thing about the big thing about the operator, like the standard operator, is that if you buy it, which is it's very expensive, if you buy it and then die with it, you're giving it to the other team for them to use it against you. When that's not going to happen with Chambers Ultimate. But anyways, yeah, the game isn't balanced around golds. Obviously not. I'm not saying that he needs to be nerfed or anything like that. The video that you're watching here is saying that he needs to be nerfed. But the argument the game isn't balanced around golds wasn't really the point I was trying to get at. Yeah, I don't know. It would make sense that if you wanted to nerf him, it would make him less useful in lower ranks. Uh, but that kind of system, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. It's a really weird argument. I don't really necessarily know how to argue that. What I will say is that um, balancing at the highest level is usually a good strategy because if it's balanced at the highest level, that means it's balanced at the core. But the problem is that you can balance it at the highest level, but it makes the rest of the game boring for everybody else, right? Like you could remove something that is really fun for most people but overpowered for the pros, and that just makes it not fun for everybody, right? Like for example, a big example I like to go to is Goyo from Rainbow Six Siege. After he first came out, he was underpicked. Nobody cared about him. Nobody was using him. But he was apparently super broken in competitive. And looking at some of the footage, I can see why to a certain extent. But then they nerfed him and got rid of one of his shields, and everyone and his pick rate just went to zero because it's like nobody was. Very few people were using him when he had three shields. Very, very, very few people were using him when he had two shields. So yeah, I don't know. Considering free up and get a jail free card, I disagree. He's the easiest character in the game. I mean, his trade or his rendezvous is yeah, his rendezvous is pretty good. But I think again, my argument isn't that he's bad, or even my argument is that in order to get the most use out of Chamber, you have to have good aim because two of his abilities require you to have good aim. If you don't have good aim, I would recommend a character that doesn't require good aim. And that was my whole argument. I'll talk about it in a second. Whiffing is not an odd thing. Shit happens at the end of the day. Opping is not hard, especially playing Chamber or Jet that get a free escape even if you whiff. That's true. That is true. You get a free escape if you whiff. You don't actually have to be very good. My aim with rifles isn't very good, but since it's so easy to op, it's basically guaranteed value when I get an op. Yeah, sure. I guess that's fair. I mean, again, I think whether or not the op is easy to use, like, is the op easier to use than every other gun in the game? I would disagree with that. I don't think it's easier to use than every other gun in the game because you only get one shot, and if you miss, then you're screwed, right? Whereas if you get like an assault rifle or an SMG, you can spray and pray and probably eventually get them. So yeah, no, I would argue the op is not the easiest gun in the game to use, but it is relatively easier. Pretty much goes for every broken agent, doesn't make him any less broken. Clearly this guy isn't understanding the point that I'm getting at. Um, isn't that the same for every other agents? Definitely not. That's definitely not the case, and I make my argument why later. Just because, um, just because a character is broken doesn't mean just because a character is powerful doesn't mean that it requires no skill to use him effectively. Um, so yeah, exactly no way people saying this are above diamond. That's kind of the point. That's literally a point. If you have bad aim, you're obviously not going to be in diamond. Um, but what I'm saying is that at lower levels, with people who can do really well even without having really good aim, then in that specific scenario, then op is, or sorry, chamber isn't the best character for your specific scenario. A lot of people argue they're talking here about other stuff, but that's not really the point I was trying to get at. It's crazy that he's a sentinel that requires good aim to utilize his offensive utilities like a normal sentinel. Unlike a normal sentinel, that is exactly true. Because because he has his sheriff looking thing, his revolver, which does require you to have relatively good aim. It's not super easy to use. Um, I would say far harder to use than the op, just because it's not like you have to try and hit heads. You can't just hit the body. I mean, you can hit the body a couple of times, but uh, that might leave you in a vulnerable position potentially. So now on to my primary comment, which is the reason why I'm making this video. It said, okay, it seems that many of you don't understand the point that I'm getting at. I never said he was bad if you didn't have good aim. My point is that major part of his kit required you to have good aim in order for you to make the most out of him. Yes, you have TP, which is the rendezvous, which is really good, and yes, you have the trap, which is the trademark, which can come in handy sometimes, but the weapons he has do require you to be at least somewhat good with aim. Compare this to KO. You have a AoE grenade, the flash grenade. No, sorry, the fragment. The flash grenade, the suppression blade, and his ultimate just exists wherever you are. With KO, you can get a lot of utility and be useful to the team, even if you don't have good aim. And that is true. You can just throw in flashbangs, you can just throw in stuff, and even if you don't hit the enemy, you're dissuading the enemy. You're stopping them from doing whatever they want to do. Or how about another Sentinel Killjoy? All her stuff is just set it and forget it. Even if you have terrible aim, you provide so much value to the team just by using your utility. I'm not saying that bad players won't get value out of him. I'm saying that bad players are more likely to get more value from different characters. The only character that comes close is Reyna. So that's my kind of counterpoint to that. And I have to say here, Reyna is a good counterexample because Reyna, if you have her blind eye, which is something, but the rest of her abilities require you to get kills, and obviously in order to get kills, you have to shoot the person because you don't have any other utility, right? You don't have grenades to help you. You don't have flashbangs to help you. You don't have AoE effects to help you. So you literally just have to get the kill. And once you get the kill, you can do stuff with the kill. But without, getting that kill, Reyna is useless. Um, so let me word it like this. Wouldn't you want your most, I want to say want, I said won't. Wouldn't you want your most skilled teammate to be Chamber rather than the guy who misses all of his shots? That's what I'm trying to get at. And I think that's the best way of wording it, right? You want your top dog, your best player, you want him to be the one going chamber. If you have a player that is missing all of his shots and cannot hit anything, you would rather him go someone else who isn't chamber, so the person who is playing chamber can get more value out of chamber. If you don't hit your shots with chamber, you are completely useless, or not completely useless. Sorry, you're the second most useless next to Reyna. But if you have good aim, then obviously that's not going to be a problem. My argument, again, is not that Chamber is bad at low elo or low levels. What I'm saying is that he's not a must pick in low levels, as in you would get more value out of other characters if you're at a lower level. This is not the case in higher levels because for the most part, everybody has good aim. It's really hard to succeed and be at that higher level if you don't have good aim. But in lower levels where not everybody has good aim, you can get away with not going chamber because you can just throw flashes, you can use Sage, you can heal people, you can do stuff that isn't just being chamber. Okay, so there was this comment that I responded to as well. Bro, that's like saying cars are only good if you have gas. Like, yeah, obviously. In pro play and higher rank competitive, everyone has relatively good aim, so the changes were warranted. Yeah, I never said the changes weren't warranted. Maybe for bad aimers like us, he wasn't much of a threat, but in the high elo MMR, he was beyond broken. And that was exactly the point I made. That the point was that he's only overpowered if that's literally what I said in my original comment. He's only overpowered if you are good. If you have bad aim, I would recommend literally any other character. That is literally exactly what I just said. So I don't know what this guy was talking about. So I went through this super long comment that I'm also going to talk about. Right? So I don't think you understand the point I was trying to make. I'm not saying he isn't overpowered. What I'm saying is that 2 of his 4 abilities only help you with your ability to kill a player by shooting them, which obviously requires you to hit your shots. A better comparison, if you're going to mention cars, is that if you are not wealthy, buying an expensive car only makes sense if you are able to take full advantage of the car's benefits, especially its speed. Otherwise, you're better off buying a cheaper car because you are able to get more out of the cheaper car relative to what the car offers. If you are wealthy, it makes total sense to buy a fast car. Why not? You're wealthy. The comparison isn't one-to-one. Obviously, the comparison being if you replace wealth with skill with aiming, and an expensive car with chamber and a cheaper car with most other characters, right? If you have good aim, of course you can use chamber. You're able to take full advantage of all of his abilities. If you aren't good with aim, it makes more sense to go with a character that doesn't require you to have good aim in order for you to be useful. That is the point I was trying to make. Kind of similar-ish to the car. It's like you can have all of this cool stuff with an expensive car, right? Where if you can get all of the padded seats and all that stuff, right? But if you're not going to take advantage of it, then what's the point? You might as well just get a cheaper car. That way you can take full advantage of what it has to offer. Anyways, yeah. Valorant aim, the comparison isn't one-to-one. The point is that in Valorant, aim isn't the only thing that matters. If that was the case, nobody would be using their abilities. Everyone would be using Sheriff and Marshal because it's a one-shot headshot most of the time. I think the Sheriff is after a certain distance, it's 145 to a head, which means that if you have heavy shields, which is 50 extra, you would have 150 total HP, and a headshot thus wouldn't kill you, but that's beyond the point. Because there is more to Valorant, everyone would be using a Marshal and a Sheriff because it's a one-shot headshot, but they don't, because there is more to Valorant than just hitting heads. There's an economy, there's positioning, there's intel and teamwork, and all of these things can greatly influence a round without hitting a single enemy. And my argument is that if your aim is your greatest weakness, it makes more sense for you to go someone like Killjoy, Cypher, or especially Sage. Because, again, if you miss your shots as Sage, just build a wall. You don't have to have good aim to build a wall. You don't have to have good aim to heal your teammate. You don't have to have good aim to uh, throw down your ice, the slowdown effect thing. You don't have to have good aim to revive a teammate. That's literally just all. It's like super simple stuff, right? She's like a combination of Mercy and um and Mei from Overwatch, basically. Uh, so yeah, now you can make the argument that his trademark and Rendezvous are good enough on their own to warrant bringing him in, even if you don't have good aim. I would disagree with that, but at least there's a point to be made because yeah, there is value, a lot of value with his trademark and Rendezvous. His trademark and Rendezvous are very powerful, especially his Rendezvous. They're very powerful because you can reposition uh, throughout a large distance just by pressing a button in a matter of a second, which is very powerful. And I'm not going to say that it's not. And I think even at lower skill levels, it's going to be incredibly useful. Um, and again, I wasn't saying that it wasn't useful, but what I am saying is that if you have a person on your team who has better aim, then bring someone in, bring that person in to be Chamber. Don't choose Chamber if you don't have good aim, assuming that you're trying to win, obviously. If you're just trying to play to have fun, then just go whatever, do whatever, right? But if you're actually trying to win, it would be more strategically viable, and it would make more strategic sense for you to have your best player who has the best aim go in Chamber. And if nobody on your team has good aim, then just nobody goes Chamber. There we go. So that was my first episode of Random Comments. Uh, I don't know how many of these I'm going to do. I plan on doing a handful because I have made a lot of comments and I want to talk about them and maybe just spread some ideas about things that I've talked about. This video was a lot longer than I expected. I expected this to be like 5, 6 minutes. It is 17 minutes long. Yeesh. Well, either way, I hope you enjoy, and I hope you leave your comments below what you think about Chamber if you play Valorant, or what you think about my takes. Hopefully, you guys understand what I'm trying to say.